Hello and welcome, my name is Olive. So this session is going to be about a 30-minute full body MOT. So something to do in the morning or just before you go to bed, just so we can get a chance to go through different sections of the body, joints, muscles, nerves included, and just work through everything, get everything back in working order. So in terms of equipment, all you're going to need is your mat. You're welcome to have a block if you would want to sit on it at any point. But yeah, that's what we're going to need. So we're going to start in a kneeling position. So the first movement we're going to come into are some neck cars. So find yourself in a kneeling position like this. You're obviously welcome to sit in a seat as well, or have a block underneath your bum. But we're going to roll the shoulders down, try to bring ourselves into a neutral position. So ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. And you're going to take out your hands by your side. So palms are facing forwards, and it's just there to sort of form rigidity in the body. So all we're going to move into is the neck. So shoulders down, normal neutral position for the spine, looking forwards first of all. Then we're just going to drop the chin down to our chest. Try not to move into any other area of the body. And then you're going to look across to your right hand. Now take your right ear to your right shoulder, ever so slightly looking forwards, breathing here, not straining too much. And then do a nice slow controlled circle behind, so you circle to left ear, left shoulder. And then looking down at the left hand. Chin comes back to the chest. And then looking forwards again. Cool, so we'll do it one more time, going the opposite way. So chin comes down. Looking at the left hand. Left ear to left shoulder. Nice and slow circling behind. Before taking right ear, right shoulder. Looking down at the right hand. Chin comes back to the chest. And then looking all the way forwards, relaxing, just shake everything off a little bit. So when we're doing these sort of movements, feel free in between just to maybe come forwards, pat the legs out, whatever it is, roll through the wrist, you name it. So next thing, we're going to come into some nerve flossing, working with our meridian nerve in particular. It's quite a weird sensation. We know what joints feel like when we move them. We know what muscles feel like when we stretch them. Nerves are a little bit weirder. So we're going to again find ourselves in neutral. You're going to start by extending your right hand straight above your head. Turn your fingertips away from you. And now take that arm low so that the wrist, the elbow and shoulder are in one nice long line. As you start to do this, you might notice a weird tingling going into your bicep, maybe down into the forearm, maybe all the way into the middle finger and the ring finger. So that's your meridian nerve. So as we're here, we're just going to start to wriggle the fingers. Notice if any sensations start to change. And then stop the movement, turn the hand face up. Oh, and wriggle the fingers again. I just felt it move into my forearm. That's really weird. Cool, and then stillness here. All we're going to do is keep this section of the arm nice and still, and we're just going to draw the fingers to our ear and then extend away. So again, just nice and slow, nice and controlled. Observe how this sort of tingling starts to change in the body. That's just the nerves starting to work a little bit, and maybe even decompress. If they're being compressed, this can be quite a nice thing to do. We'll go one more time. And then let it relax, shake out the arm. Cool, so onto the other side, left hand extends, turn the fingertips away, drop it down so it's in line with your shoulder. Give the fingers a wriggle first. And again, this side might feel totally different. Stop the movement, turn the hand up, wriggle. Cool, stop the movement. And then again, as you look forwards, fingertips to the ear, and then slowly away. Just going with this a couple of times. Seeing if this side feels completely different or if it's the same, what happens in the movement. Cool. We'll go one more time. And then let that hand relax, give it a little bit of a shake out. Maybe come forwards and pat out the legs if you want as well. So from here, we're going to come into a little bit of a cactus position with the arms, looking at our scapula, so our shoulder blade, just gaining some movement there and waking up the muscles in the upper back. So, hands are going to draw out into a cactus position, so creating 90 degrees between the forearm and the bicep area. And all we're going to do is start to squeeze those elbows down by our side, and then bring them back up to our starting position. So squeezing down, and then pulling back up. What you want to avoid here, as the elbows come down, try to avoid sticking the chest out, and try to avoid almost collapsing in. You want to keep your body in neutral, where you're bracing through the core, and you really want to try feel a squeeze coming in through the scapula, your serratus anterior, and your lats as well. So everything is starting to find this real nice sort of activation point. And it should almost feel like the muscles and the joints are gliding with one another. Cool. And it's quite a nice way to wake up the upper back muscles as well, and the supportive structures of the shoulder. So I'll go with it 2 more times. And then relaxing, and everything should feel a little bit more active. So I'm going to stay side on. We're now going to come into some shoulder swimmers or some shoulder cars, whatever you want to call it. So from your kneeling position or sitting down, whatever you're in, you're going to start by taking your right hand straight out in front of you, thumb facing upwards and your palm facing the inside of your body. From here, we're going to start with a small circle, so start to lift the hand up. You're slowly going to start to rotate it behind you, and as you do, your palm starts to rotate the other way, coming face down, or the palm away, thumb is up and lands by your hip. Then again, you slowly elevate, you start to rotate, you bring the hand forwards, and you land it down with the thumb facing up. So we're working through our shoulder joint. Try to do this with control, so we're not just sort of like flinging the arms about. We're finding the stability through the muscles as well to support the joint. And over time, we might be able to go a little bit bigger with the movement. So right now I've gone quite shallow, but maybe I feel more warmed up now. I might want to take the hand higher on the initial elevation, and then slowly, as I come to more external rotation, it stays quite high. Again, you see how it feels, but try to keep the shoulders still facing forwards. What we want to avoid is this twisting movement here. When we start to twist, whilst there's nothing like inherently wrong with that, it just means that the movement comes more into other areas of the body rather than just the shoulder joint that we're working towards. And let's rest here, give it a shake out. So we'll go on to the left hand side. Again, left hand starts in front, palm facing inwards, thumb is up. Start to elevate, rotate, change through the direction of the palm, let it land. And then again, slowly circling forwards as well. We're not coming into a full circle just because the ground is like in the way, but it's also nice to maintain this sort of like difference between external rotation, which is when the hand is behind, and internal rotation when the hand goes forwards. And again, like before, I might decide I want to make my circles bigger whilst trying to avoid twisting too much through the thoracic region. And this is quite a nice or a much better alternative to do than just like swinging your arms about. I don't know if you've ever seen people just like going like that at the gym or whatever. Whilst like it can feel good, and whilst you might be getting some rotation back, there's not a lot of control over there. At least with this movement here, you're teaching yourself control and stability to the shoulder joint. And then slowly next time you circle it back, give the arms a shake. Bring yourself forwards into a tabletop position, and we're just going to pat out the feet a little bit. So, into our tabletop position, now I'm going to move into some spinal articulations. So I like to have my toes tucked for this, but feel free to have them flat. With the hands, really push through the hands, try to grip your fingertips to the ground. So everyone knows cat-cow, this movement here where we come through flexion and extension for the spine. Whilst again, there's nothing inherently wrong with this, we're going to see if we can start to teach ourselves a little bit more control over the spine, rather than always finding this sort of like bend hinge point from mid-spine between the lumbar and the thoracic. We're going to see if we can develop a little bit more control. So bring yourself into neutral, and then from there just bring yourself where the belly drops down to the ground. You're squeezing shoulder blades together, so we're more in extension. When we go throughout this movement, we're going to start the movement from our tailbone and waver up the body, eventually coming into the head. So you're going to bring yourself into flexion, or this position here. So you're going to start by slowly drawing the tailbone in, but trying to keep the top of the spine still. And you're slowly going to start waving up. The last thing to move is the head, chin to the chest. And then again, we start the movement the opposite direction, keep the chin to the chest. Start to move the tailbone down, belly down to the ground. Nice and slow, nice and incrementally. Again, last thing to come up is the head. So it's ever so slightly different to your standard cat-cow that you might find in yoga. It's teaching you a little bit more spinal awareness, spinal control, spinal segmentation, whatever you want to call it. And for me personally, I found it quite empowering because I know, or I can pinpoint where there are weaknesses in my spine, where certain sections of my spine are more mobile, others are more sort of compressed or locked. And it just teaches you to have that awareness as you go throughout daily life. So I'll just do a couple more rounds like this. Remember as well to try keep your breath consistent. Then wherever you are, slowly end up back into a tabletop position. So from our tabletop, we're going to have a little bit more of a look at thoracic rotation. So from here, again, at any point, please roll through the wrists, flick out the fingers, whatever you need. From here, we're going to push through the hands, start to brace through the core. So we're not allowing too much of this or too much of that. Nice neutral position, bracing. You're going to start by taking your right hand behind your ear. Shoulders are both facing the ground. Take an inhale. And then on the exhale, push through the left hand, start to rotate towards the right hand side, opening up that right elbow. Now what I'm avoiding is pushing my hips away from me. My hips and my lower body are staying still. I'm only twisting from my thoracic region, so where the rib cage is. And then slowly back down. Again, inhale, open. Exhale, slowly down. Again, a couple more times. Try to move with the breath count, whatever it might be. So you're really bracing through the core. The legs are actually super active in this. The left arm that's on the ground is continuously pressing, and the movement doesn't have to be that big. It can literally be a little opening. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as that. We'll go one more time. And then land, and we'll swap sides over. So left hand behind, swap directions again. And again, inhale to open, exhale slowly down. Inhale. Exhaling down. Just going a couple more times again, finding that stability, finding that control, rather than just looking for depth. We want to get the movement correct, because that's going to be more beneficial than chucking yourself super deep into the pose. And then slowly coming all the way back, relaxing, untucking the toes, roll through the wrists, flick out the fingers a little bit as well if you like. So the next movement we're going to come into is a little bit of activation through the posterior chain, also looking at some pelvic and core stability. So from here, bringing yourself back into tabletop, we're now going to extend that right leg straight behind us, coming onto the balls of the back foot. So the leg is nice and straight. We're just going to start by pulsing or rocking backwards and forwards. So a little bit of weight change into the wrist, into the heel, getting a nice little bit of a stretch down the Achilles, the calf, maybe even into the quad. Cool. And then slowing down the movement, reset the hands, shoulders over the wrists. You're going to squeeze and activate your right glute, the hamstring, the calf, and then start to lift the leg. So the heel is in line with the hip. Draw the belly button in, brace through the core. You can either stay here or you can join me in a little bird dog movement where you start to extend that left hand away from you. And again, hand is in line with the shoulder. We're drawing that belly button in. The limbs that remain on the floor are super active, breathing for 2. And then on 1, as the left hand comes down, bring that right knee forward, step it between the hands, coming up to a low lunge position. So over here, we're going to have a little look at some split squats. I would recommend tucking the back toe so you have a little bit more push into the ground. You're going to brace with the hands by your side. Take an inhale. And then on the exhale, just start to bend into the front knee. As much as you can, we're avoiding collapsing forwards. We're trying to stay neutral with shoulders over the hips. So go as far as you can. Try to keep the heel flat to the ground before coming all the way up. And again, inhale. Exhale. Good, so 2 more times, squeezing through the glutes, engaging through the core. Last time. Lovely. And then both hands down, step back to your tabletop. Onto the other side, left leg again, straight behind, that was my knee. So again, we're going to start by pulsing, by rocking, by moving. Of course, at any point, please feel free to put a pillow underneath your knee, because it's not always the most comfortable thing in the world. Cool. And then again, after this weight bearing sort of exercise activation through the posterior chain, let's find stillness, shoulders over those wrists, squeeze the left glute cheek, slowly start to lift that heel. So you really want to feel some tension going through the leg that's elevated. And then if you want to come to bird dog, extending that right arm straight in front of you. So really pushing through the hand, the knee that's still on the ground, feeling the strength in the limbs that are lifted for 2. And then on 1, right hand lands, bring that left knee forwards, coming all the way up back to your low lunge. So again, making sure the hips are level, squeezing the glutes, hands by your side, inhale, exhale, moving into the front leg. And you might have noticed glutes again automatically switch on, a little bit of sensation traveling into my hip flexor, into my quad. Last time. Then when you're ready, hands down, back to your tabletop position. Lovely. So from here, down onto the knees, swivel those legs round to the front. And we're going to bring ourselves into some supine movements. So first of all, we have a twist coming up, and then what have we got? We have got something else. So, as you lie down on your back, both knees are coming into your chest, and then from here, we're going to take both legs down towards the right hand side. So try and relax the knees, relax the feet, put a pillow underneath if you feel like it. So I'm actually going to start by allowing my shoulders to rotate towards the right hand side as well, and my left hand is going to extend up and above my head. From here, that left hand is slowly going to create a circle behind me, and then I open it out towards sort of like shoulder length. Then again, I circle it up and over, and then I can bring it in a little bit more. So you just start to create these circular movements. The hand can go as low down or as high up as you fancy. Low down as in closer to the body, high up being a little bit further away. It's quite a weird movement to do, but it feels quite good in terms of the rotation for the thoracic spine, because in our twist we're not actually twisting from the lumbar section, we're twisting from the thoracic. Cool. And then slowly coming all the way back to our start position, ending up there when we're ready. And then travel all the way through center, take the knees down towards the opposite side, so left side. You're going to start with the right hand extended above you. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like in the other direction. So you're starting by bringing that right arm in towards the knees, start to lift up above your head, rotating, taking it as low as you want it to go. Now we just continue this movement here. Going as low or going as high. Again, I can keep this hand at shoulder level, or I can bring it all the way down the body. But it's just quite a nice way to gently mobilize through the thoracic spine whilst in a supine position. Cool. So I'm going to do it one more time. Coming all the way back to the start before rolling back onto my back, planting both feet onto the ground about hip distance apart. So I'm going to come into some glute bridges, such an underrated way to sort of activate through, again, the glutes and the posterior chain. So start by seeing that you can feel your heels with your fingertips, hands are going to go either side. You're going to start to push through the big toe and the little toes, activate the glutes, start to lift as high as you can, and then nice and slow on the descent. Again, just going up, squeezing, engaging, nice and slow on the way back down. If you wanted to sort of like, not challenge yourself, but have a little bit more control on these lifts, you maybe lift up for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, and then descend for 3 seconds. So you've got an equal balance between the eccentric part of the lift, the concentric, and the isometric. Cool. But yeah, you should feel those glutes switch on quite a lot. Try to keep weight even between the heels and the toes as well. Cool, we'll go one more time. And then slowly coming all the way down. Maybe release by hugging the knees to the chest, and you can rock yourself side to side, whatever feels good. Cool. So next movement here, we're going to come into some dead bugs. Dead bug is a really, really nice
nice way to start to switch on through the core a little bit more and just start to wake it up a little bit. So you're going to come into essentially like a reverse tabletop. You're lying on your back. Arms are going to extend straight above the head, or straight above the shoulder, sorry. And then you're going to lift the legs into 90 degrees. Hips, knees are over the hips, and then feet are pressing into like an imaginary wall. So first of all, you're going to try and engage the core and produce the back, make it super flat against the ground. So again, you're bracing through the core. Nice and slow, you're going to straighten up the right leg while simultaneously straightening up the left arm. The arm and leg go as low as you can without losing the control in the core. So as soon as my back starts to lift, like I've lost that core control. So the leg and the arm might only be there, that's fine. We slowly bring it back, and then we extend through the other limb, the other arm, the other leg. Slowly back through center. Again, try and make the initial descent, the hold, and the return the same kind of pace. So if they're all as slow as one another, or all as quick as one another, just try to keep it even, so the muscles are working hard in all of those sort of movements. So again, the eccentric, concentric, and the isometric parts of the movement. I'm going to go for 2 more. I purposely haven't put in reps here because I just want you to see and feel what feels good for you, whatever time of day you're practicing this, and go for more or less if you want. And then relax, hugging those knees in, maybe rotating through the ankles, rotating through those wrists. Cool. And then bring yourself over to the side, coming all the way up to a seated position. So the next thing we're going to have a look at from here is some side plank movements and then some shoulder taps. So with side plank, you're going to start by lying on your side. I'm going to start lying on my left leg first and matching the right foot on top. So just for the purpose of alignment, try to have the heel in line with the hip, and then it's really common to like stick the chest out or roll too much over, but try to ensure that again, shoulders are in line with your hips. We're actually going to do this on our forearms, so you want to make sure there's a lot of pushing strength into the shoulder. So first of all, start to elevate by pressing and lifting up. Now it might be easier to stack the right foot in front, that's fine, taking the right hand onto your hip. So nice and slow, we're going to dip down towards the ground and then elevate and push. Just a couple of times like this. Keep drawing that belly button in, as in bracing through the core, really pressing down through the left elbow, the left forearm. And use the right leg if you would like. This is quite hard. I'll do 2 more. And then slowly relax, come all the way up, and we'll swap sides over. Down to the right forearm, start by stacking the feet, check the alignment. Again, one foot in front of the other if you would like. And then when you're ready, press and lift. Slowly down, slowly back up. So there's a lot of work obviously going in through the shoulder, a lot through the legs. Think about lifting the hips as high as possible when we do this. Cool. We'll do 2 more. Last one. And slowly down, slowly come in. All the way up, have a little breather, have a little shake through the wrists, through the elbows, whatever you need. Lovely. So let's come into shoulder taps a little bit more for the core, and then we'll have a look at some other positions. So shoulder taps, you can either do this in a kneeling position, or you can do it in a plank position. Doesn't really matter, see what feels good for you right now. Essentially what we're going to be doing, pushing through the palms, neutral position with the body, take opposite hand to tap, opposite shoulder. Now whilst this may look easy on the surface, we want to avoid twisting too much into our hips. So this is why when you start to elevate the knees, it's best to start with the feet wide, and as you tap, control the sort of limiting, the twisting and the dipping in the hips. The closer the feet come together, the harder it is. So I'm going to do it in a plank position. I'm just going to do a couple of reps, just allowing that core to switch on. So you're really pushing through the quads, squeezing the glutes, driving the heels into the ground, but keeping them elevated. So 1 more on each side, and then slowly lowering down. Release those feet out in front of you. Give them a little shake, give them a little rotate. Lovely. So we're going to come back onto our back just before we come into our closing sequence. I've got to check what we've got next. Cool. So lying down on your back, feet planted to the floor. Going to come into some flossing for the posterior chain. So we're going to start by holding the right thigh. That heel, the right leg is just sort of dropping down towards the ground. So you don't have to hold it in super tight. You can be fairly relaxed. This ankle isn't doing anything right now. It's not pointing, it's not flexing. We're going to start by extending that leg as much as we can, as straight as it will go. We're going to point the toes, flex the toes, point them, relax the foot, drop it back down. So again, we extend, we point, flex, point, relax, bring it back down. So just a couple more like this, as many as you need, as many that you feel like the body needs on this side. Cool, so I'm going to go for one more. And let the leg come down, release. Take hold of my left leg again, just let it be relaxed. We're going to first of all extend, point, flex, point. Ooh, this side's tighter, and then release. Extend, point, flex, point, relax, release. Just going through this again a couple more times. And then we're going to finish off with some other movements for the spine, a little bit more for the ankle, a little bit for the hips. Cool. So I'm going to do this one more time. And then releasing, hug the knees in, bring yourself up to a seat, swivel the legs around to the front and back to your tabletop position, and we're going to come down onto our bellies. So again, doesn't really matter how you get there. We're going to come into some sort of like hybrid pose of Sphinx, of low Cobra, just looking at a little bit of spinal extension, again to this thoracic region, and looking at a little bit of lumbar health. So again, cactus position with those arms, so elbows in line with the shoulders, really pushing the feet into the ground, squeezing the glutes. Start with the chin to the floor. Inhale, you're just going to start to lift through the chest and then slowly back down. So nice and easy to start with, lifting, slowly back down. Now feel free to play around with the arm placement. You can bring them in closer, you can bring them in narrower, you can take them out wider, but eventually you're going to start to lift the elbows off the ground and come up onto the palms a little bit more. So we're gaining more lift in the thoracic region, sort of a little bit more like lower down. So instead of it just being like high up, it's going a bit lower. And again, play around with where those hands are going, narrower, closer, whatever seems to work. There shouldn't really be any low back discomfort, but if there is, try not to lift as high and make sure you're really engaging by pressing through the feet and engaging those glutes. Cool, let's go one more time. And then relaxing. So hands go behind the shoulders, push yourself back into tabletop, sit down onto your bum, and you're going to bring your right knee in line with your your right toes in line with your left knee, ankle dorsiflexion. So you're going to hug in that right knee, shift as much as your body weight forwards. You can lift the bum off if you would like, but keeping the right foot nice and flat. So we want to avoid this. We want to keep it nice and flat to the floor. And try to really crunch the toes down into the floor. You might feel a sort of like more of a sensation going down the back of your Achilles, maybe even into the calf. If you have like any weights at home and you want this to feel stronger, you can hold like the weight in your hand and just put a little bit more sort of load onto that joint. And then slowly releasing, we'll swap those legs over. So right knee in, left toes forwards. I'll turn and face the camera for this. So again, toes in line with the knee, hug it in, shift more of the weight forwards, lean into it as much as you would like, but the foot remains nice and flat. So again, really pressing down into the toes, add some of that juicy resistance. Cool. Let's go for 2 more breaths. And then slowly backing all the way out. Lovely. Release, bring yourself forwards into a tabletop and have a little shake out of those legs. Cool. So last two things we're going to visit. We're going to have a look at some fire hydrants, which is a nice movement for abduction to the hips. And then we're going to finish off with some leg lifts for the hip flexors. So again, I would tuck the toes, brace through the core, bring yourself to neutral, push through the hands. You're going to start by slowly lifting up the right knee, the right toes, and then abducting, so taking away, opening out towards the right hand side, and then slowly bringing it back underneath the hip joint. So they're called fire hydrants because they're meant to, I guess, mimic what a dog would do when it wheezes on a fire hydrant. But nice and slow. There's a lot of engagement to my glutes, my inner, my outer thighs, and my abductors, my adductors. Still pushing through the hands. And again with this, you want to avoid lifting the knee too high because we really don't have that much joint rotation to the hips and sort of twisting through this area of the body. So if you really wanted to, you could place a book there or maybe even a hand just to make sure that we're not twisting and compensating into this area, just like we did with the shoulders. So one more, and then slowly down, release, roll through the wrists a little bit because there's quite a lot of pressure that went into them, and then we'll do the other side. I'm going to turn to face the camera, so maybe you might be able to see like I'm not compensating through my low back. So again, push through the hands, lift the left knee, the toes, abduct towards the left hand side. So again, every body part is super active in this. But the main movement is, of course, coming to my left hip. My right leg is super active through this. It's really driving through the ground, keeping my lower section of my body nice and still. Pushing through both hands, trying to keep my shoulders still. Cool, we'll go 2 more times. Last time. And then slowly down and release. Shake through those wrists, bring those legs and hands to the front. So the last little section of our body MOT, going to be hip flexors. So hip flexors, super important muscle in the body. They're one of like the deepest abdominals. They sort of go from the lumbar spine, intertwine through our pelvis and go down towards like the thigh. And what they're responsible for is sort of like bringing the knee towards the chest. But they've gotten shorter and weaker from a lot of the sitting that we do, so it's kind of hindered a lot of our movements. So we need to bring back some strength, or at least a little bit of activation. So you're going to start by taking your hands by your hips. The lower down your hands go, the harder the movement will be. So maybe even start actually about mid-thigh. You're going to really push into the hands, squeeze shoulder blades together. You're going to start by pointing the right toes. Engage through the quad. And then you're going to lift and then slowly bring it down. Lift the leg as high as you can. Again, I'm pushing through my hands so my upper body's not moving. Good. And if you're struggling to move that leg, what you can do is assist it on the way up, but then let go and control it on the negative, so on the way back down. Because this is quite a difficult thing to do. You might find you're getting a cramp through the quads. If your quads are hurting more than this region here, it just means that your quads are stronger. Cool, let's go for one more. And then release, shake it all out. Last thing on the left leg, again point the toe, push through the hands, lift, slowly down. Like I said in some of the previous exercises, lift for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, down for 3 seconds, if you want to develop that control. Good. Remember to breathe through the movement. Good, let's go for 2 more. Last one. And then release, relax, give everything a little bit of a shake. And there we have it. So, I hope you enjoyed that quick 30-minute full body MOT. Hopefully we've covered main regions like some of the joints in terms of rotation, some muscles in terms of activating, and even the weird like nerve stuff that we did with the posterior chain flossing and down into our meridian nerve as well. But yeah, any questions that you have, please let me know. Suggestions for future videos are welcome as well. But yes, thank you, and I'll see you next time.